To the Dean Obeidallah Show. Joining us right now, it's our friend Frank Figliuzzi, FBI Assistant Director, retired, MSNBC national security expert. Long Haul was his big best-selling book. He's written other books as well. Also has a Substack, writes for MSNBC. He's a nonstop working machine. Good to see you, Frank.
Dean, no one works harder than you. So I'm just blessed to be with you today.
Thank you very much. It's kind of you. So, by the way, this is a special, almost like a Law and Order hour. We have you first, and you're like law enforcement, and then Glenn Kirshner second. And it's like Law and Order. The first part, the cops go out there. Second part, the prosecutors do it. So I'm going to ask some of you the same questions on purpose to get a different point of view from law enforcement, even though you're a lawyer as well, and Glenn just is a pure prosecutor. But first, I want to start with something that, I love to enjoy your conversation with you. It's entertaining, but this is deeply dark and concerning. We're learning now from Fox News, and there's no denying that it's true now, that the Trump DOJ is investigating former CIA Director John Brennan, who was a critic of Donald Trump, and James Comey, who just simply did his job. Both of them just did their job. And it's about, according to source reporting, we don't have documents, it's based on the Trump Russia probe. And Donald Trump was asked a short time ago by Fox News reporter, do you want to see Comey and Brennan behind bars? That was the question. And the answer is, I think they're very dishonest people. I think they're crooked as hell, and maybe they have to pay a price for that. So I have to get your reaction to this.
Wow. So let me respond on two different levels. First, the immediate micro level, which is these two guys who are dedicated public servants who, as you've said, were doing their job. Just like the FBI agents who were walked out of headquarters, just like the FBI agents who all worked the January 6th cases, just like the DOJ prosecutors who have been fired or let go because they prosecuted January 6th. We're talking about government officials doing their job. So the immediate hit on them and their families is they've got to get lawyers. They've got to be prepared for a harassment prosecution, which ultimately I predict, if this goes the route of grand jury and judges, will ultimately get dismissed, and they'll be found not guilty of whatever the hell they've been accused of, which, by the way, based on the comment you just read from the president, they've been accused of simply not doing what the president wanted. They got in the president's way. So that's the micro level. And we can get into what in God's name the crime they might have committed. We're largely, by the way, with regard to Brennan particularly, we're largely talking about the intelligence process, which is, as you know, people with any sanity understand the intelligence process is nebulous. It's gray. It's about putting out information. During my FBI career, I had to be certified post 9/11. If you wanted to advance in your career up the national security chain, you had to be certified an intelligence officer across the government. I understand the intelligence process, and I had teams of analysts under me. So if you're going to say, well, these guys, they tainted, they shaded the intelligence reporting, good luck with that. And even better luck trying to say that whatever they ultimately published or said was a crime. What crime is that? So let's call it what it is. This is the true weaponization of government. Now, let's go look at the larger macro level for the future. This is just the beginning, Dean. If you are on media speaking out against the Trump administration, if you've been in the trenches in a field office with law enforcement, if you've prosecuted, they are coming for you. They're coming for you. And what is the goal? Not to not to seek accountability, but rather to harass and silence. And in these two gentlemen's cases, to send a message for future government officials at FBI, at CIA, if you dare to come after someone in power, you will pay a personal price. That's what this is about.
I think you put it so well. That's exactly what this is. All of the actions of Trump, which come out of the autocratic and fascist and tyrant playbook, are to cause other people to react by seeing and going, okay, we're not going to do that. So if you're in the FBI and you see actually concrete, credible evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime, or his kids committed a crime, or someone else in the inner circle committed a crime, you know what? You hope that someone's brave enough to go forward. I don't know if it would make it up the FBI chain, but if you take that next step, you might get prosecuted. That's the lesson here. And that's the lesson they want to send. That's the message they want to send.
That's the goal. And look, I always ask people who say, well, Frank, they weaponized, the other side weaponized the government against Trump. That's what this, come on now. Show me where that was. We had grand juries. We had prosecutors and magistrates and judges signed search warrants. The system, you may not like what happened,
Right.
but show me where the system was corrupted, because it wasn't. And so I predict, I still believe it or not, I still believe in the court system and the criminal justice system. If you're going to charge somebody with a crime and go through that legit system, this will ultimately get dismissed. But it's the journey, it's the hassle, it's the financial losses. It's telling your family, I'm under criminal investigation for bullshit. That's where we are right now.
It's unbelievable. It's very dangerous. It's not something we've seen before. And you have the Donald Trump as president really leaning into it, very happy about it. And then, let's shift gears to something where Trump doesn't want us to see, and DOJ doesn't want us to see, is the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, according to Pam Bondi in March, she was on Fox News, said there are literally thousands of documents, truckloads of documents. She said thousands is what she said. The DOJ memo, but she vowed transparency. The DOJ memo that came out on Monday, first line, transparency. Out of these thousands of documents, we're getting zero. Not even like 5 or 20 or 50, zero. This is the idea of transparency. What could be a good faith basis to keep thousands of documents from us? Even, you could block them out. You can, certain things we shouldn't get, but zero, they're stonewalling the public.
So here's my take on this. I've been following this closely from day one. And I have a personal interest in this because I came out of, one of the field offices I served in the number 2 position was Miami, South Florida, where this case came out of, by the way, the Epstein case, West Palm, right? And I wasn't in charge at the time. I didn't have anything to do with this guy. I had moved on, but I know these people. I know them. And here's the deal. First, to put this under the category of don't make promises you can't keep, because they promised to the Trump base, we're going to produce the list. There's a client list. It will all be exposed. Here's what I know and believe to be true. There's no client list. Epstein wasn't keeping a list of people that he was compromising, exposing. It actually would have been against his self-interest to keep that list. The other thing I'm hearing, Dean, is the files that have been released as part of the various court cases are pretty much what they have. We've seen what they have. Yes, victims' names are redacted and all of that. So this conspiracy theory, and look, I'd like nothing more than to say, oh, they're not releasing it because there's a bunch of Republicans that were clients. I don't know that. Yeah, maybe. I've seen photos. I've seen photos of a lot of people on airplanes and with young girls. But I don't know that. What I know for sure, and I feel comfortable saying, Dean, to your audience, is don't promise what you can't keep and what you can't deliver on. And they promised it, and it's more of same, whether it's Patel or Bongino or saying we're going to produce this or that. The FBI knows who planted the pipe bombs before January 6th, and we're going to expose that. And we're going to tell you how Epstein was murdered in prison. And now all of a sudden they see the files and they go, Jesus, we don't have it. That's it. But let me tell you, if it causes the Trump base to start eating each other and then yeah, okay. Hey, shame on you for believing the conspiracy in the first place.
I think it's, first of all, it's stunning that Pam Bondi goes on TV and says there's a truckload of evidence. That was a term. And she said, and I went and listened to it, literally thousands of documents. So there's thousands, we don't get anything, which is kind of hard to believe. She was asked by John Roberts on Fox News in February, do you have the client list? Is there a client list that you can release that? And she said, yeah, it's on my desk, that kind of stuff. Now she's walking it back saying, I didn't mean client list. You're the Attorney General of the United States. You're not going to pick your words carefully. You're a lawyer. Like, so maybe she made a mistake, and that's worse at another level because she does just whimsically saying what the Fox News audience wanted to hear, and now it comes back to bite her.
Yeah, look, I think for many of these folks, it's what can I say early on that will get me appointed to this position and have people saying to Trump, you pick her, pick her. She's gonna show us the truth. And then it all collapses. And now she backs away and changes the story. That's where we are. That's a house of cards that when your life is built on conspiracy theories, it eventually collapses.
It's and it's kind of interesting to see the anger is still going on because people don't believe because nothing was released. And she said only a fraction in the DOJ memo on Monday. They said only a fraction of the material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as a seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. But I mean, we learned stuff from Giselle and Maxwell because Donald Trump publicly said in 2019 he'd never been on his plane. Well, there was testimony and flight logs showed that he was on at least 7 times, and there was a pilot who testified that under oath in a federal prosecution by federal prosecutors who are not going to put a witness on the stand who's lying, at least not knowingly, right? So Trump's lying about stuff. I assume his name it could be referenced in there. Not Donald Trump committed a crime. Here's what he did. But if they did a long distance, I don't know how long the investigation. I mean, you were in the Miami office, but they were buddies for over 2 decades. These two.
Let's remember. I'll remind folks, the U.S. attorney in Miami at the time when this went away. Okay, essentially the Epstein case went away and was declined and thrown at the locals. The locals, God bless the sheriff down there in Palm Beach County. He came to the feds and said, "Holy God, I don't know what's going on, but I think you guys need to take this, right?" And then they basically punted it. And then what happened to that U.S. attorney? Well, he became a cabinet secretary briefly, didn't he?
Trump, yep.
Yeah. Amazing how you decline a child exploitation case and you get promoted to the cabinet. That's what I want to hear about, Dean. And you know what else I want to hear about as a national security guy? I want to hear about all of the chatter out there about Maxwell and Epstein and their foreign intelligence connections, whether it's Mossad or Russia or her father or his father. There's not enough of that and getting to the bottom of that.
Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, the question yesterday at the cabinet meeting was about that because they said that, there was comments in the past that there were some connections that he could have been involved with foreign intelligence. I thought that was like someone just read on the internet and asked it. So you're saying that there's something there?
There's enough smoke there that we need answers. There have been writing and even I believe a documentary about these connections. And I can tell you, if I were the head of a foreign intelligence service and I had the ability to compromise powerful people in the United States because they were doing inappropriate things with minors, I would do it in a second. That's how you compromise people. And there's enough there that I have read to ask the question, were one or both of them, Maxwell or Epstein, somehow cooperating with a foreign intelligence service?
And is there any suggestion of what that intelligence agency is?
Yeah, I don't. So I don't want to get into. I've mentioned 2 of them already, and I'll let people research this on their own.
Okay, no, I thought you were just throwing them out as examples. I didn't think you were implicating them in this, but that's interesting. All right, we'll have to look into it. I'm chatting with our friend Frank Figliuzzi. So, Frank, I wanted to go back to something. I think we talked about it last month. Was the assassination of the representative in Minnesota, her husband, and the wounding of 2 others, the attempted assassination. And the guy, Vance Bolter, got a lot of press for a few days and it's kind of gone. I mean, it's just going through the legal system now. I read he just had a hearing and different things. Anything more about the motives for this guy anything more that you've seen or heard or learned?
There's precious little out there. And I, at the risk of sounding like I'm my own conspiracy theorist,
Right.
I have to say, I have to wonder, I'll wonder out loud whether this person's known connections to the far right are causing media platforms to be extremely careful about implying any cause and effect.
So they're waiting it for, I guess, to be developed at the trial. Then it's more responsible than to report on if they could say, at trial evidence was introduced that did this or that. He probably ends up pleading. There's no defense. So he ends up pleading. So maybe we don't hear anything more ever again.
This is the problem. I mean, good news if you're a prosecutor, you got a guy who is what I call a cause killer. He's going to say, I did it. Here's, but you don't really need to show why, do you? If the guy's going to say, I did it. I'll note at today's press conference with Trump, he talked about, you want to talk about focusing on people's motivations. He was asked a question about the shooting incident or the potential ambush incident of ICE agents. A week ago, a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what he said? I think there's left-wing militias being funded to do the anti-ICE violence. They were caught with brand new weapons. They were caught with body armor, etc. Where's that coming from? Who's funding that? Right? And so, it's okay for him to say, I don't know the evidence. I haven't seen that evidence yet. I don't know why, people are shooting at ICE agents. You shouldn't do that. You should go to prison for shooting at ICE agents. But he's very happy saying he thinks it's left-wing militias being funded by dark money. Wow.
Well, anything to get Jeffrey Epstein and files out of the news media is something Trump will do, to be honest. I mean, that's what his one thing that he does well is that. So, Frank, I saw you had flagged this on social media, and I thought it was interesting. It got some press, but there's an imposter pretending to be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was contacting foreign ministers, a U.S. governor, members of Congress, by sending voice and text messages that mimic Rubio's voice and writing style using AI. So this is a coming attraction to the future for all of us. Some of it was on Signal, of course, because everything's on Signal. What are your concerns here? I mean, obviously it's pretty apparent, but what should we be worried about? What should we be doing?
So, Dean, of all the topics we quickly hit just now, I'm telling you that this topic, the degree to which AI is going to mess with our lives and national security is the topic that we should be talking about. And so for those who don't know what happened, essentially AI is now at the point where with just a few sound clips of someone's voice, in this case, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, it can then produce entire conversations where it sounds like you're talking to Marco Rubio, right? And what happened was at 4 or 5 heads of state or other government officials, other nations, thought they were receiving calls from Marco Rubio and engaged with him reportedly. You understand this could literally start a war in its worst case scenario. AI is a force to be reckoned with. It's way out ahead of us. And my comment on social media about this was, okay, we got this big problem to deal with, but right in front of us, my God, stop using Signal because here's what happened. Marco Rubio uses Signal, apparently, according to this report, to talk to other heads of state and his colleagues around the world. If you would simply use government to government secure communications, right? And I know it's a pain. You got to be on your government phone and you got to tell the person you're calling in the other country, please get on that special government phone we sent you. And we're going to do the electronic handshake.
Right.
Yeah, it matters. It matters because that electronic handshake, the guy you're calling or gal would say, yeah, I'm on my government phone and I can see you're on your government phone. We're okay. Probably not an imposter in your office right now. Yeah.
So this is the future without regulations. I mean, you've got Congress, which is so inept and partly owned by big tech companies because the donations letting this run amok. There needs to be some regulations of AI, clearly.
I'm telling you that there are states in this country that are way ahead of our federal government on regulating AI, way ahead. And the inability of Congress to get out in front of this. But you know what? even let's assume all the laws are in place. And by the way, there are security regulations in place for our highest officials. You know what they say? You probably shouldn't use Signal. We're giving you very expensive secure phones. Okay? You should use those, right? So you can pass all the laws and regs you want, but if Marco Rubio is going to keep using Signal, then bad guys are going to keep trying to get in there with AI imposter voice applications.
Is it just about convenience, or is there less record keeping if you're using Signal than you're using a government phone?
So there's clearly the convenience thing. I get that.
All right.
But yes, I believe there's a theme throughout this administration, including the infamous Hegseth call
Right.
on Signal about war plans, that they don't want the accountability that comes with following the archive rules, archiving communications, using the official communication systems. That's, I think, driving a lot of this, in addition to general laziness and convenience.
And very last thing, I'm chatting with our friend Frank here. I'm not sure. I mean, it's entertaining on some level, but concerning. There was a Pew poll that just came out, and they asked in Canada, what nation's your greatest threat? And it's like, forget Russia, North Korea, or Iran. A majority of Canadians now see the United States as a greatest threat. 59% of Canadians view the US as a major risk to them because of Donald Trump threatening them. Does that have an impact in any way on terms of national security, national sharing information? I mean, how does this play out?
Look, in my first book, The FBI Way, I talk about my own personal professional experience with the Canadians and the Five Eyes generally. The Canadians, we enjoy a trusted national security and intelligence relationship with. We do amazing work together. You have to have friends in the world. And when your friends start saying, I don't trust you anymore, in fact, I view you as a threat to me, then you bet it impacts national security, and particularly the sharing of intelligence. We share virtually everything with our Five Eye partners. And now I really wonder what's going on with regard to intel sharing, and let alone the ability to recruit people. I continue to bang this home. When you've got to sit across from a foreign intelligence officer, Dean, and try to convince them to play for Team America, and it's the right thing to do, and they look at you and go, well, nobody, your friends don't even like you anymore. Where is this going? What is Trump getting my information? Why should I play on your team anymore? You're no better than us. That's a problem.
That's interesting. So Frank, last thing, where can people follow your work? Where do you want them to check out your stuff?
Yeah, look, I got a website, frankfigliuzzi.com. My appearances are there, clips, my columns. Also, I'm on Substack now, increasing audience there. Instagram, Blue Sky's going very strong, as is Threads. Check me out. And if you send me a fairly civil message, I generally respond.
Frank Figliuzzi, he's everywhere. All right, my friend. Nice seeing you. Thanks so much for making time.